If you've never watched your mother fall silent to avoid being a burden, this video may feel too quiet. But if you have, you'll hear something in between the words. If you've ever sat at a table and quietly wondered when you became invisible, this might be the story that won't let you scroll past. It wasn't the silence. We'd grown used to that. It was the precision. How everything had been returned just as it was given. Not refused, not acknowledged. Just placed where I'd be sure to find it. No words, no space made. Not even the polite fiction of having misplaced it. I stood there, still holding it in my hand, not sure if I'd been remembered or erased with extra care. There's a kind of message you only read with your fingers. A weight that wasn't there when you sent it. A shape your hope no longer fits into. I didn't cry, but I didn't move either. And maybe that pause, long, quiet, and completely understood, was the answer. The lock on the back door had been changed. Sleek, silver, too new for a house like this. I hadn't asked for it. No one told me. When I pressed my old key into the slot and it refused to turn, I stood there for a long second, staring at the knob like it might give me an answer. It wasn't what they did. It was how carefully they did it. Not to hurt me, not to push me out, but to make sure I'd never have a reason to stay. I rang the front bell. Madeline answered with a smile too quick, too bright. "Oh," she said. "Sorry, I meant to text. The locksmith came while you were away. Just routine. For safety." I nodded. That's what we both did back then. Nod. Like nothing was ever too much or too wrong to bring up. Later that afternoon, I noticed a pile of mail on the hallway table. Bills, ads, and a thin white envelope addressed to me, but forwarded from my lawyer's office. The return label read simply, Property and Title Services. I didn't open it, not then. I held it in my hand and felt the weight of something I didn't want to know just yet. In the living room, everything looked untouched. Same cushions, same rug, same faint scent of orange oil. But the picture was missing. It had always sat on the mantel. A photo from Madeline's college graduation. Her arm across my shoulder, both of us windblown and laughing. The frame was brass, a little tarnished, just enough to feel warm. I searched the shelf twice. Then I opened the drawer under the sideboard. There it was, turned face down, bent slightly along the corner, like someone had tucked it in too quickly. Behind it, stacked neatly, were some papers. I didn't read them. I only saw the heading, Change of Beneficiary. That was enough. I set the frame down, careful not to make a sound. That's when I heard her voice. Madeline, talking low, steady. "She's not in every room," she said. "But it still feels like she is. The smells, the way things are arranged. Sometimes I walk into the kitchen and it's like she's already halfway through the conversation." There was a silence. "I just want to make this place feel like mine," she added. "Fully mine." Lucille's voice came after, softer. "You're allowed to want that." My hand was still on the edge of the drawer. I stared at my fingers, how still they were. I didn't step in. I didn't clear my throat or shuffle my feet or drop something to be noticed. I stayed exactly where I was, breathing as quietly as I could, as if I might vanish more gently that way. No one was shouting. No one had done anything cruel. Just the little things. A lock replaced, a photo hidden, a scent erased, and underneath it all, a hum of rearrangement so gentle it could pass for love. The drawer slid shut without a sound. I stood there, just outside the frame. Unnamed. Unneeded. That's how you know. You've been written out of the story, and no one paused to make edits. I reached for my teacup and found it gone. Not broken, not misplaced, just gone. It used to sit on the second shelf, right beside the chipped blue saucer. A set, faded but familiar. I checked all the cabinets twice. Then I opened the dishwasher. A new set, white porcelain, polished uniform, lined the rack. Too modern, too clean, none of it mine. That's when I realized the pantry had been rearranged. The tea I liked was now on the top shelf. The small jar of sugar I used had been pushed to the back, behind protein bars and gluten-free crackers. I stood there for a moment, hands still hovering midair. Then I opened the drawer beneath the tea towels. A small envelope was inside. One I had left for Madeline last Thanksgiving. Still sealed, torn halfway. Not read, not kept. Just disposed of, carefully. That's when I felt the sting behind the quiet. It felt like someone had rewritten the map of my own kitchen and left me off it. In the laundry room, I opened the washer to help with a load. The clothes weren't mine. Madeline's cardigan. A towel from the guest bathroom. The detergent smelled sharp, unfamiliar. The kind I used was tucked behind the cabinet door, half full. Probably expired by now. I folded the towel anyway, slowly, even though no one asked, even though no one noticed. I remembered a day, not long ago, when I offered to make soup. Madeline smiled and said, "It's okay, I already meal prepped." She wasn't dismissing me. She was just efficient, but it landed like a lock clicking shut. So I sat at the kitchen table, empty-handed, and listened to the refrigerator hum. I couldn't think of a single thing I was expected to do. Not dinner, not errands, not anything. The silence around me wasn't peace. It was permission to disappear. That evening, I opened the closet to find my raincoat. It was pushed behind a pile of boxes. The hook I used to hang it had been nailed flat, not removed, just bent inward. Something about that made me sit on the edge of the bed and stare at my hands for a long time. They were still capable, still steady, but no longer asked for. I didn't feel unloved. I felt unused, and over time, that's worse. People think pain is loud, but sometimes it's just the sound of drawers closing. Later, I walked into the hallway and glanced at the mirror. The woman staring back was neat, tired, faded at the edges. I stepped closer, squinting. Was that my expression, or just the lighting? I leaned in, then stepped back, and left the room. I didn't turn the mirror around. I just didn't want to see her anymore. It was only after that I thought of Lucille, of her last winter here, the way she used to sweep the porch before anyone woke up. One morning, I told her, "You don't have to do that." She smiled, held the broom for a second longer, then let it lean against the wall. I didn't notice that she never picked it up again. Now I do. The picture frame was turned to the wall again. Not fallen, not misplaced, just quietly turned, as if someone had decided the smile in the photo had overstayed its welcome. I found it like that on the side table in the living room. A faint ring in the dust showed it had been that way for a while. No one mentioned it. No one needed to. I lifted the frame, brushing my thumb across the glass. It was from my birthday last year. Cake, candles, my hands mid-clap. Madeline behind me, barely in focus. That day, she'd given me a scarf, pale green, said it suited me. I hadn't seen it since. Last spring, Madeline gave me a birthday card, signed M, just that. Not your daughter, not even love. I kept it, unsure if it was a gesture or a goodbye already in progress. The week before, I'd received a letter from the insurance office. A soft notice, not a warning, not even alarming at first glance. but it read, "Please confirm removal of Beatrice C. Weller from homeownership documents as requested by Madeline L. Weller. My name, my home, my removal." A sentence written like it was just a formality, like I was a checkbox someone had quietly unticked. I didn't ask her about it. I didn't even tell her I saw the letter. Instead, I told her I needed rest and booked a quiet weekend at the retreat center along the river. The same one Lucille used to visit when I was small. Madeline seemed relieved, said she'd light a candle for me. But Saturday morning, something shifted. I can't name it, a strange stillness. I packed my things early and drove back without calling. The house looked just the same. Neat. Calm. I parked around the side and let myself in through the back. No voices at first, just the soft clink of a teacup and then the low sound of Madeline's voice. She was in the sitting room. I stopped by the kitchen door, not quite trying to eavesdrop, but not moving either. Then I heard the second voice. My mother's, Lucille. She won't notice, Madeline said. She's always made herself small to make room for others. I think she sees it as kindness. There was a pause. My throat went dry. She gave me this house like it was a gift, Madeline continued, but never asked if I wanted her name on the title. It's always been that way, a gentle kind of pressure. Lucille's voice was quiet. She doesn't mean to be heavy. She just never learned how to be light. I didn't stay to hear more. I turned, walked back out the kitchen door, and circled the garden like a stranger passing by. I don't remember what the air smelled like. I don't remember if the sky was clear. I only remember the weight in my chest, the peculiar ache of overhearing something not meant for you, but meant entirely about you. That night, in my room, I lay still beneath the fan and tried to remember when I first learned to stay quiet. Maybe it was when I watched Lucille get told she wasn't needed for Madeline's wedding planning. I had said, "It's easier this way, Mama. You've already done so much." She folded her hands and nodded. The needlepoint she carried stayed untouched on her lap. A week later, I found the half-finished scarf she'd been making, tucked inside a wooden box in the hallway. She'd written no note, just left it there. I remembered that scarf when I found my own in the laundry basket. Pale green, worn once, stuffed behind a broken zipper. I held it in my hands like an echo. Madeline hadn't meant to be cruel, but I hadn't meant to be cruel to Lucille either. I remembered how I once moved Lucille's chair from the living room to make space for guests. "Just for the weekend," I said. She nodded. The chair never returned. I thought I was protecting her from discomfort. Maybe I was just protecting myself from facing her presence. And now, Madeline was doing the same. That's the trick with kindness. It can disappear into silence. And silence, left long enough, starts to feel like absence. I realized something I hadn't wanted to admit. I had taught Madeline this, not with lectures, with behavior, with example. I had given her this house, and with it, the idea that giving should be quiet, unconditional, invisible. I had made my presence so small, she believed it was meant to vanish. And still, somewhere inside, I had hoped she'd notice me. I thought, if I gave enough, stayed soft enough, took up little enough space, they would keep room for me. But no one keeps space for what they believe is content to be elsewhere. I had removed myself long before she started doing the same. That realization didn't sting. It numbed. And then, strangely, it cleared something inside me. I thought about Lucille again, about how she used to sit by the window in her old chair, folding laundry no one asked her to do. I had once moved that chair to make space for guests. Told her it was temporary. She never asked for it back. I thought I was protecting her. Maybe I was protecting myself from the guilt of needing her less. And now, Madeline had done the same to me. We pass things down in families, not just recipes or rings, but patterns, invisible instructions for how to handle closeness, or how to retreat from it. I didn't want to retreat anymore. I didn't tell Madeline what I'd heard. I didn't bring up the title change. Instead, I gathered the things that still smelled like me. The lavender sachets, the old teacups, the wooden hairbrush, and moved them into the small guest house behind the garden, the one Lucille once used. I called my lawyer. I rewrote the will. I removed my name from the joint accounts and left the house. Not physically, but legally, in the hands of a local fund that supports women rebuilding after loss. Madeline wouldn't find out for a while, but when she did, it would not be a punishment. It would be a pause. People say absence makes the heart grow fonder, but that's only true when the absence is noticed. I wasn't angry. I was just done asking to be seen. That evening, I placed both scarves, Lucille's unfinished one and mine, side by side in the cedar chest. One never given, one never worn, both held in silence. I ran my hand over the lid before closing it. It smelled faintly of lavender and thyme. No note, no message, just presence. Finally, mine. Maybe she didn't forget me. Maybe she was just following what I taught her, to move on, quietly, gracefully, completely. I didn't take anything back. I simply stopped offering what no one asked for. Some legacies are not left in wills. They're left in how you reclaim your place, with no drama, just direction. Quiet justice, what she did without saying a word. I spoke to the lawyer softly, like the words might bruise if said too loud. I explained what I wanted. Not revenge, not reaction, just clarity. I kept the garden, the guest house, a small curve of land that held my morning shadows. The rest, the main house, the title, the long list of joint signatures, was placed into a trust, one that allowed Madeline to live in peace, but didn't hand her the power to forget where it came from. It wasn't punishment. It was preservation of what was still mine. The paperwork moved slowly, just as I hoped. She wouldn't feel the shift, not right away. Like erosion, it would take time. A week later, I saw her at the mailbox. She opened a letter, scanned its lines. Her fingers tightened. Her mouth moved slightly. No sound. Then she folded the paper carefully and went back inside. No call. No knock. That night, the kitchen was quiet. I opened the cupboard and saw something small. The old sugar jar. Mine, placed gently on the second shelf. Not a word, just there again. The next morning, I took the cedar box from the back of my closet, the same one Lucille had used for her unfinished scarf. I lined the bottom with soft tissue, folded my pale green scarf, and set it inside. Then I walked across the garden and left it on the porch bench. I didn't wrap it. I didn't tag it. I just left it where she'd find it. She could choose to open it or not. Not everything needs to be opened. Some offerings are complete just by being placed. Seen, considered. That's all I ever wanted. But if she did, she'd see what was inside, what had been offered, what had been kept, and what, despite everything, was still soft. Healing, the return of small things. Some mornings arrive softer than others. That day, the light came in like warm water, touching everything gently, not asking to be noticed. I opened the kitchen cabinet and found my sugar jar, right where it used to be. Not front and center, not staged, just there. as if it had never moved, as if someone had remembered. I didn't speak, didn't ask. I made tea slowly, not for comfort, just to hold something warm. I used the old cup, the one with the chip near the handle. It still held fine. I carried it to the window and sat where the sun landed best. The garden outside didn't look different, but the silence in it had changed. It no longer held my name, like something fading. When I passed the hallway, I noticed the picture frame had returned. Not placed, just reappeared, back on the shelf among the quiet things. No announcement, no apology. It faced forward again. I didn't touch it. Later, I opened the cedar box, not to take anything, just to see. The scarf was still folded exactly as I'd left it. No note, no crease out of place. It hadn't been worn, but it hadn't been returned. I closed the box gently. The air inside still held the faintest trace of lavender, the kind Lucille used to keep between pages of her books. I let the scent stay on my hands. That evening, I stepped barefoot into the yard. The stones held the day's warmth. The sky leaned into blue. I passed the wooden table Lucille once used for folding laundry. A fine layer of dust had settled, except for one clean circle, like something had been placed there and recently moved. I didn't check what it was. I just stood, letting that space speak louder than objects ever could. I sat. The wind stirred the rosemary. I didn't think about what had been said, or done, or left unsaid. The robin stayed a moment longer than I expected, and that was all. For the ones who still fold things no one asks for, if any part of this paused something in you, don't rush past it. You don't need to explain why you still glance at the same hallway, why some drawers stay closed, or why you haven't thrown certain things away. Some echoes aren't loud, but they stay, tucked into corners, folded into rituals, waiting in spaces no one else notices. If you felt that, don't post, don't reply, don't even nod. Just breathe and leave it right there, like it was always meant to sit quietly with you.